Hello, I'm back. There's many videos, same outfit. Also still roasting in my room because I can't have the air conditioner on because it's too loud. Um, but I want to get these, I feel like an urgency to get these videos out. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sarah Petruno. I'm a shamanic practitioner. I have been practicing shamanism for 9 years, since 2013. I started out, I did not want these gifts. Did not want to do it. I was a graduate student getting my PhD at University of Wisconsin-Madison. I worked in a lab and I had like 10 years lab experience. Prior to that, I managed labs. I published scientific author. I did not want to be the weirdo who was doing shamanism wearing a tunic. in I wanted to be a normal person with normal clothes and not shaman clothes, and that I pictured as shaman, that I stereotyped at the time as shaman clothes. I couldn't picture myself at. I didn't want these gifts. But here we are, 9 years later, and it's who I am. And apparently part of my purpose here is to share about it, help other people come to terms with their gifts, help make these practices more accessible and more, bring them back, basically help bring them back. I'm one of many who have a similar role to this, and help reconnect people with their shamanic roots and help people understand that everyone has these abilities and everyone can do this, whether or not you're meant to do it to heal other people or not. Everyone can do this to help them in their own lives. But what I wanted to do is, well, number one, ask you to subscribe and like this video because I keep forgetting to do that. But it helps the channel. I need 4,000 views to monetize this. What I want to do is do a little series that explains how I got started with this and how one begins if you don't know where to begin. And really all I'm going to do is talk from my own experience about how I got started with this, because when I got started, I didn't know anybody who was a shaman. I didn't know any shamanic practitioners. Anyone who did this and anywhere in my lineage was dead. But I found out I had these gifts and I had to figure it out. And I also didn't have a lot of money to do it. So when I first found out, I'm not going to go full into detail of how I found out I had these gifts, because there's like other people who are involved who may not want, the association with this. So I won't go into full details about how I found out I had the gifts, but I found out that I had these healing gifts, and that it was shamanism, that it was shamanic healing. And one of the ways that I did that was through a reading. I had a reading with my twin sister, Amanda, who is a medium, and she was practicing mediumship. And in a reading she gave, it was revealed. And through a series of synchronistic events, it kind of came to be that, oh, by the way, you're not a medium. You have this ability of shamanic healing. And this was in 2013. I had one child, then a baby. She was like 3 months old. And I had just started a PhD program like 6 months prior. And what do you know? You find out, like, by the way, you're shamanic healer. You have the shamanic healing abilities, and your life is about to totally flip upside down. And I didn't like it. I wasn't happy about it. I didn't want it. If I wanted to have any spiritual gifts, I wanted to have the same gift as my sister, which was the mediumship, talking to dead people, because that's like, I don't know, that's what I knew. That's what I kind of believed, because I didn't have any doubt that there were dead people that you could talk to, or that you could see, because I'd spent my whole childhood like basically living alongside ghosts, and my twin sister being a medium. So it was always part of my childhood that there were spirits, right? No one in the family was like practicing in any way, but we definitely coexisted with ghosts growing up. So I didn't have the skepticism surrounding that being real, right? But I did have the skepticism surrounding energy healing and that even working, and I thought it was frivolous, because like I said, I was in the scientific community. I needed to see things in a published, measurable way, and all of energy healing and shamanic healing, you can't. It doesn't have language. It like exists in other realms. There's no measure or scientific measure usually. I mean, I think there's people who try and like paranormal people who try and like measure it and like give physical data to the evidence of there being another side. But largely shamanism doesn't operate that way. It operates in these other realms. And so Number one, I didn't want the gifts. Number two, I didn't have any money to pay anybody to teach me about it. Like, I was a graduate student. They make nothing. Our family at the time was on food stamps. Like, my husband worked at a grocery store. I had a baby. Like, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. Like, I didn't have the resources to like pay for an apprenticeship. And there also weren't the resources available online, or like their blogs weren't really a thing. Anyone who did this didn't really have a blog. Or YouTube channel or anything like that. So it was like, well, what do I do? Right? Like, how do I like actually start this? Like, if I have to do this, like, how do I do it? And that's really the premise for why I want to do these videos, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, have a disrupted lineage, like I've talked about in other videos, and you're like, okay, I feel called to this. I know that like this is calling me, but I don't know where to begin. And maybe you don't have a lot of resources either, or even if you do have resources, but you like still are like skeptical and you don't want to pay somebody because you're like still not sure. That's for you too. Okay. So let's talk about it. We're going to talk about how I got started, what I started doing. It's like how to start shamanism on a budget. It can be the series, or just how to get started at all. And I'll just be speaking from my experience of the steps I took to go from basically learning I had these gifts to doing practice healings within the span of about 6 months. Okay, I went from learning I had these abilities, I want to say in like January or February. Maybe it was 9 months. And then by September of that same year, I was like doing practice healings on people. And then by the next year, I had basically turned it into a blog and a business. Okay, so let's begin. All right, so I found out I had these abilities. The first thing that I do, because I did because I didn't know what to do, was I asked my sister, who's a medium, like, well, what do I do? And what do I do with this? And she said, well, if your life is about to turn upside down from this, then what you should do is get some energy healing. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So the first thing I did, honestly, was I didn't even start meditating or like even trying to figure out like what I was supposed to do. I just went and saw an energy healer. And I did some chakra clearing work with her. I had 2 sessions with her to kind of help clear out my energy to prepare myself for the changes that I was about to experience. Okay, so that was step 1, is I went and saw an energy healer, step 1. And I had 2 sessions with her. And then after that, at that point, my sister had kind of honed her mediumship abilities to the point where she was giving readings. So she was able to give me readings from my spirit guides, kind of giving me like step by step of like, okay, do this. And then it would be like a short reading. And then I would do those things for like a month or 2. And then I would, kind of check back in with them to get more guidance. And it was like step by step, like a check-in with my spirit guides through a medium. Or somebody who gives readings on what do I do, and each of these steps until I was able to communicate with my spirit guides myself. And that took me 6 months or so to be able to communicate with them myself. So step 1 was I got energy work to prepare myself for the changes that I was about to experience in my life. And then I started getting readings from a medium who happens to be my sister to get guidance from my spirit guides. So energy work, clearing myself out, to some spirit guide readings is what I got. Now, these aren't required. I'm just sharing you what I did. And then where I started, okay, was how did I start like learning shamanism, and how did I start even know where to begin? What I did and what I now teach my students is I started with energy and being able to sense subtle energy, because for me, and the way that my spirit guides were teaching me is I needed to sense the energy first. For most shamanic healers and most shamanic practitioners, their strongest intuitive gift is going to be clairsentience, which is feeling energy. And this is evidenced by like you being empathic, being able to sense other people's emotions, being able to sense other people's energies. For you to be really good at shamanic healing, like you being able to feel energy and feel your way through the other planes of existence, that's like that's going to be your core gift, okay? Is this energy healing, energy feeling, being able to feel energy, clairsentience. That is going to come easiest to you, most likely. More easily, most likely, than clairvoyance, than communicating with spirits, than being able to see visions. That stuff can come later. But for most shamanic healers that I have worked with and trained, and for me personally, what came easiest was clairsentience and feeling energy, because I was already doing it, right? I was already feeling energy. Like I had anxiety, I had depression, I had like all these mental issues that was stemming from me being able to feel everyone's stuff, okay? And so I already had this ability to sense energy. And so what I needed to do was be able to fine-tune that ability to sense and perceive differences in subtle energy and in the subtle energy fields, okay? And how I started doing that was by working with trees. Okay, I'm going to post a link to this book below. It's called Working with Tree Spirits in Shamanic Healing. This is a shaman who exists in the UK, and I don't think this book is available anywhere except his website, but he ships it, and I believe he has an ebook version of it. The reason trees were chosen, well, one, somebody gifted me that book, and two, my sister gifted me that book. Two, is trees have extremely large energy fields that are generally very easy to perceive if you dial yourself into it, okay? And so essentially what you're going to want to do is put yourself on a schedule of, I'm going to go out and sense subtle energy and intentionally go out and feel that difference, see if I can feel energy differences in trees and in plants. And what I did was I did it every other day, and I did it after dinner because I had a baby and I was in graduate school. And so when spirits were like, you need to practice energy healing, I was like, when? I was like, are you going to give me extra time? And so I figured out that after dinner, between dinner and bedtime, wasn't a time where I could like do any homework or like any like meaningful like tasks that I had to really focus on, because it was such a short window that I like couldn't like sit down and do statistics homework, or I couldn't sit down and write a paper because it was like an hour and a half, and like that wasn't enough time for me to focus on anything. So I chose this window between after dinner and bedtime because that was enough time for me to go on a walk. Okay. And what I did is I would go on a walk, and I would just go out on that walk and say, all right, I'm going to go out and try and sense energy and feel energy of things. And I would just take my hands and scan them over plants. And I would just as I walked, I would just kind of feel over plants and see if I could feel anything. And, I would feel past buildings and see if I could feel anything, and just use my hands basically to start scanning energy. In the beginning, I could feel nothing. It was like I couldn't feel anything. It was like nothing was happening. And I was like, this is weird, and people are looking at me. But over a couple of weeks, wouldn't you know, I started to be able to sense the difference between one bush and the next bush, and be able to feel like one felt a little tingly in a different way than the other one felt a little tingly, okay? And I would do that with different plants. And then that's where the trees came in, is I would go to parks and places where there were trees, where I could start kind of far back. You want to start like several feet back. And I'll close my eyes, and I would put my hands like this, and I would walk slowly towards them until I could feel a difference in the change of the energy. And what it usually felt like is like you could almost feel like a pressure in your hands, or like a tingling in your hands, or like there was a difference. You can feel a difference in your hands. And if I got super close and I didn't feel anything, I would back up, go all the way back, and I would try again, and I would walk towards them again. And I kept kind of doing that until I could feel where the tree's energy field started. Okay. And so I'd go all the way farther out until I sensed a change in the energy. Now, of course, before I started, what I would do is I would introduce myself to the tree just in my mind. And I would say, like, my name's Sarah, I'm practicing energy. Like, is it okay if I practice on you? Pretty much most of them will be open to it. You might get one who like their energy just doesn't feels off, just don't. But most of them will be open to it. And I would just do that. I would go to trees, and I would close my eyes and walk towards them with my hands like this, my palms open, because your palms are an extension of your heart chakra. Your palm chakras are an extension of your heart chakra. And, you know, when you're manipulating energy shamanically, if you're doing it, you're going to be doing it with your hands. So that's where you're going to be feeling energy. And so that's what I did. 3 times a week, I would go out and for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and I would sense energy with my hands. if it was raining or if the weather was not nice or inclement or something, then I would do it inside. And what I would do is I would sense the energy of my pets. I would line up crystals and I would run my hands over the crystals, and kind of stop, like, let me get some crystals here and show you guys. I would kind of line up the crystals farther apart than this. You want to get them far apart so their energy fields are far enough apart. But I don't have a table to lift up and show you. And I would just kind of go like this and move them from crystal to crystal and see if I could feel differences. And over time, what happens is you're probably not going to feel anything in the beginning, and then you'll start to feel differences in energy, and it just takes practice. And that's really how you start sensing subtle energy. And that's like a way basically to start honing your abilities and to start working with your abilities that isn't meditation. We'll talk about that later. What I started doing is I started incorporating meditations and drumming and opening my third eye and all of that. But in the beginning, what I did was got energy work to open myself up and do some healing work that could overcome barriers that were in the way of my abilities developing, which I had a few, like some family stuff and like past family issues related to this ability. So I did some energy work, received messages from my guides on my next steps and like more specifics on what my abilities were. And then I went out and started sensing subtle energy. And in the beginning, and what I experienced and what I tell most of my students is you will probably feel nothing. And it's going to be weird and it's going to be feel uncomfortable and you're going to feel strange about it. And I'm going to tell you guys a little story that's going to make you feel better about doing this in public. Because now you're like, Sarah, I cannot go on a walk like people are and be feeling energy like a weirdo, you know. I cannot go out in my neighborhood and be scanning my hands over bushes. That's strange, right? I agree. And I was resistant to it too. But like essentially what happened to me was I hated graduate school and I was miserable and I didn't know what else to do. And this was another option for me. And I was like, I don't know where this is going and I don't want this ability, but I also really hate graduate school and I can't see, this is miserable. And so it was really like kind of pulling at me to do it. So I just did it. I said, I need another way. And that was another way. And, I had encouragement from my husband and my sister at that time. And, my husband kind of kept me accountable because I told him I was doing this. And if anytime I wanted to not do it, he was like, you can't not do it. Like you said you were going to do it. And, that's kind of what kept me on track. But I'm going to tell you a story that's going to make you feel better. Okay. And about your self-consciousness and going out and doing this in public is one of the times, and I still remember this, it was 10 years ago, basically, 10 years ago. And I still remember this, is one of the times I was going out and sensing a tree energy, a tree spirit, is, it was in a park, like a public park, like a playground and like a park and like a park. And, Tom, my husband, and my daughter, who was a baby at the time, were with me. And I had my eyes closed, and I was walking towards this tree, like, very slowly with my hands open, just as I've instructed you to do. And this guy came past on a bicycle, and he was staring so hard at me that he almost hit a parked car because he was, like, trying to figure out what the heck I was doing. And it was like, I don't know what point I opened my eyes or what point Tom told me that had happened, but this guy was like staring so much at me that he pretty much ran his bike into a parked car. He wasn't hurt, but he was like judging hard enough that that happened. And you know what? I lived. I don't know who that person was. They don't know who I was. And the purpose they served was maybe so I could tell you the story so that you could know that I experienced being embarrassed by doing this in public, and I lived, and here I am telling you to go do it. And the reason I'm telling you to go do it is, one, because trees have very big energy fields. They're generally very receptive to working with humans, and working with humans in healing and in shamanic healing, and they're like free volunteers. Like, within energy work, like you're going to need to be practicing working with energy and feeling energy, and most people don't have like unlimited subjects, so you can have trees trees will volunteer their energy so you can practice perceiving energy. And that's one of the main things that you have to learn within shamanism. To do this work is you have to be able to sense differences in subtle energy. Okay. And a big reason for that is once you get into shamanic healing, and you're sensing someone's energy body, you need to be able to know like where the energy needs to be shifted and where the energy needs to be moved and what the energy feels like before and after, and which energy feels better and which energy feels like it still needs work. That's why you need to know how to sense subtle energy and sense differences in subtle energy. And so that's step one. That's what I would say. Step one with getting started. Well, the energy healing, I can't remember now, the readings, and starting to sense subtle energy. Now, I forgot to mention this in all my other videos, but I updated my Hey Hero readings, which are essentially these distance video readings. And then I also have like a quick energy healing on there too. And I'm going to put a link to that below. Yeah. That's that. I forget to mention these things that like say, hey, I offer these services, and I offer these things, but I wanted to put that out there and put it below that I have new Hey Hero readings. Hey Hero is a platform that allows intuitives and psychics and that sort of thing kind of to have these quick, short services, and the services are done via video, so you get like a video recording back, usually within 7 days. Or sooner. Okay, so that's that. That's how I got started. Step one, the trees. And then next week we'll talk about, oh, there's something else. How to get started. We'll do another follow-up video when it's time to do another follow-up video. Actually, I won't promise that it's next week because the tree, the scanning, the energy scanning, the all the stuff I gave you is going to take you longer than a week. So when it's time for another how I got started with shamanism and how to get started with shamanism on a budget video, then we'll do one. All right. Bye, guys.